People who went through that it's not a phase mom phase as a teen. What are some moments from it that still make you cringe when looking back on it? I pierced my lip while I was sitting in my 8th grade math class with a safety pin I found outside. I didn't change it to a stud until 6-7 months later. So in essence I wore a rusty safety pin in my lip to look edgy. For some reason I spent a couple months attempting to speak with a Jamaican Caribbean accent. That would be 12-year-old, 65-pound scrawny white guy me. This is the best one for some reason. Being a Wiccan, which was entirely me just wearing black, buying incense, and drawing pentagrams on all my schoolwork. I went through Silver Raven Wolf's coming out as Wiccan chapter in Teen Witch, and got sent to therapy. To be fair though, it was actually pretty useful a couple years later when I came out as a lesbian. Trying to cut my own emo fringe. I literally just cut a straight line into half my fringe and looked like a freaking moron. I did that. I just used a shaver and went slowly. Still looked like butt. Back in 9th grade, I had Eminem fever, where I dressed up like a white Slim Shady and rapped his songs. It would be normal, except I was in India. No one knew who Eminem was and what the songs meant. My mom was angry and I called it a phase. Few others supported me because though I had great English skills for rapping without me, everyone called me hip hopper, which got annoying before high school. Please tell pictures of you dressed as white Slim Shady exist. I need to see this. I wrote lots of gory prose and bad poetry in creative writing class, and sat in the corner brooding. My writing from back then is just so bad. I remember one poem I wrote was really rhymey and ended with this edgy butt line. I'll tear you apart, then play your song. Plague. You need to listen to the Mortified podcast. It's adults reading their childhood journals and poems, raps, letters. I cry from laughing every episode, and this sounds like it would fit right in. I was a self-proclaimed emo from 6th grade up until senior year of high school. That would have been fine honestly if I hadn't gotten into the teen wolf phase. My friends and I wore collars, tails, harnesses etc. and ran our friend group in a hierarchy like a wolf pack. It was pretty freaking terrible. We used to howl and bark together. Not sure why my parents didn't just euthanize me then. Thanks for the laugh and second-hand shame. Went through a gangster phase when I was like 14-15. I'm a white girl who grew up in a small rural French community. I'd only date gangster guys, who were also white guys who thought they were thugs, and I wanted to be a rapper. I even bought myself bling. I cringe when I think about it. Decided my sophomore year of high school that I didn't want a bed anymore, so I moved a couch into my room and slept on it till I got out of high school. Looking back on it, my parents didn't make a big deal about it. I was extremely 70s-ish, minus the weed. High school, nickname being hippie. I'm talking bell bottoms, a headband every day, braids, flowy shirts and garish colors, the whole nine. My mother hated it so much that she begged me to stop, so I gave my headband to her one year for Christmas with the promise to not wear it again. But I made another one. It was an awkward time. I did that too, but in the 1970s. As an emo kid in middle school, I regularly wore the same pinstripe pants and dirty black cardigan. My mom even said I wasn't allowed to paint my nails black, so in retaliation I painted them grey. I don't cringe about it. I look back with fond nostalgia, but I see it was a bit silly. For maybe a few months I decided I was an alien. My parents just hadn't told me. And we were really from Saturn. I told a couple of kids at school and wore this cool windbreaker jacket my grandma got me even though it was hot out, saying that it was designed to regulate my temperature. Next time say you're from Titan. Saturn is a gas giant with no solid surface. As a teenager I loved the bad boys. Skater, doing horrible in school or already dropped out, get high and drunk all the time. I wanted you back then. Tried convincing family it's what I liked and looked for in men. I had a lot of crappy boyfriends because of this. That time I wrote fanfiction for Harry Potter back in 2005. At one point, my fanfic had several, possibly 1,000 or more, followers and at least 5,000 comments. I got a message over a year ago that someone had followed it and wanted more chapters, so, out of curiosity, I went back and read it. It was so bad. No continuity. The plot kept floating this way and that but failed to stick the landing. The premise had plot holes galore, and while the characters were okay, no Mary Sues. Thankfully, there were so many otherwise writing nos that I deleted it immediately. Oh, and someone from high school recognized me from my profile on the fanfiction site, so she definitely came up to me to talk about it during lunch. It was so awkward. I was super into the idea of being a redneck. This was when the Blue Collar Comedy Tour was in full swing, so maybe that had something to do with it. I had Confederate flag shirts and was a hardcore Southern apologist. Also a history buff who was super into the Civil War. The worst had to be that I had a Confederate flag sticker on the inside of my pencil box that said NAARP, National Association for the Advancement of Redneck People, at a middle school that was at least 1/4 made up of black students. I'm a suburban middle-class white kid from northern Ohio. Being random. Oh my gosh guys, I'm so random. No you're not. You're entirely predictable, acting like an but because you're basically a canister of hormones at this point. There was also that stint where my friends and I overused constipated as an adjective. Oh my god. Today in class was so constipated. So random. LOLXD. Insane clown posse. I don't feel like I need to elaborate much beyond that. Still fairly embarrassed with my former self. One of these days there will be a citywide riot between jugglers and the alt-right, and the rest of the country will die of embarrassment. I have naturally super thick hair that is real bushy and just grows outwards, so it's best to keep it long. Anyway, when I was 15 I thought I was the crap and decided to cut all my hair off and dye it blue-black because no one in this town has done this before. My own words. I honestly thought I was so edgy. It was a disaster. My hair went into this weird looking fuzzy cropped bush that was uneven because I cut it myself, and in daylight it looked bogey green. Took fricking years to grow out. I, as a Malfoy blonde, decided to dye my hair black. After like a year of having it black I wanted to go back to blonde, and well, it got chicken orange. It got so ugly and damaged that I had to go to a hairdresser who chopped it off and colored it to a dark blonde. I haven't dyed my hair since. I went through a pretty big militant atheist phase, became super into Dawkins and Hitchens, and would watch them own religious people on YouTube. I'd then go to school and try to regurgitate their arguments in one-way debates against friends who couldn't care less. I was a kid though, so I never really understood the complexity of what people like Hitchens were explaining, so it's safe to say I butchered the frick out of it. I guess I thought it made me look like an intellectual. Even tried to copy the way Hitchens spoke. Now I couldn't give a crap about other people's religion. Do whatever. Doesn't make a difference to my life. Same exact thing for me. I was one of those debate me annoying atheist types of a person, and I'd try to force my opinion onto people who couldn't care less. Now that I'm actually more educated on religions and got more involved in certain religious things, I just let people believe what they want, and I cringe thinking how much of an but I was from 13-16. I was a candy kid raver. I never did drugs at the events, likely because I had no idea where to get them, but I spent countless hours perfecting my light shows to dazzle the kids who were blitzed out of their minds. I just really enjoyed dancing and helping people have happy trips. There was a really nice sense of community in the rave scene, especially for people like me who struggle to fit in elsewhere. It was pretty fun, to be honest, but when I look back at old photos, I can't believe I dressed that way. How embarrassing. My friends and I, female, were super into emo dudes kissing. It was a popular MySpace thing at the time where emo dudes would make out and post the pics with various filters, mostly black and white or sepia. I printed off like 30 of my fav and taped them on my wall like a weirdo. We had our favorites taped in our locker we shared as well. I see the wall in the back of some of my older photos and just cringe so hard. When I was around 18-19, I was completely into nu metal. I was wearing camouflage pants, a black sleeveless shirt, a chain with spikes on it, around 5 biker chains on my wallet, and even worse, fingerless gloves, which were actually the gloves you use for weightlifting, in an attempt to the baddest mother around the club. I still listen to good old nu metal bands like Korn, Coal Chamber, Mudvayne, etc. sometimes, but the dressing up that much part to look badass is cringy in retrospect. When I was 16, My uniform was men's jeans corduroys, a Metallica shirt, my uncle's old army jacket, combat boots, and black lipstick. Just how childish I would act without any real knowledge of the world. I was an angry kid and felt no one understood. Few crap I would put my mom through is what makes me cringe. Now that I am a bit older, I see how much my attitude put my mom through, and she already was going through a ton. I feel ashamed now that I handle all my own affairs and realize how much of a sin she was to deal with, taking care of both my brother and I, running the house, paying the bills, and then coming home to deal with our crap. A sort of reverse on this. I was obsessed with Pokemon as a teenager when it came out. I watched the anime, played the Japanese Pocket Monsters ROMs, and of course had Red and Blue pretty soon after they came out. My stepdad made a huge deal about how embarrassed I would be looking back on this, and managed to get me to feel bad about liking Pokemon, which I temporarily moved on from. Looking back, I'm not embarrassed about anything except letting his dumbass comments get to me, and of course the fact that I still have several gens yet to play. Liking Pokemon as a teen is not cringy at all, emo. As a kid I'd hiss at kids and tell them I was a vampire, the horrible foreshadowing to an inevitable emo weeaboo phase. It was horrid and I did not look good. Yelled at my grandma in the middle of mall while visiting family. I went through a Wiccan phase, but it was jacked up to an 11, because we believed we're the destined saviors of the world. That's right. I remember telling my mom in a Brock Samson voice that I was probably going to be killed in the line of action before graduation because I was basically Buffy. She had remarkable restraint. I mean, for not slagging me mercilessly for the rest of high school. Coven activities mostly involved us teenage girls pretending to be hear the ghosts we were hunting. There was a fair amount of denial going on, but also a lot of plain old lying. There's an evil spirit hanging from the ceiling fan. She's got glowing red eyes followed shortly by oh my god. I can see it too, we were all liars. Constantly lying. Gut TLDR. I was in a fake Wiccan Scooby gang that believed we were literally going to save the world, until we decided we were bored with that. Then we got into conspiracy theories. Then suddenly the Illuminati was after us. So many phases I can't list them all. 1419 was weird. Vampire wore plastic fangs all the time and white fassa paint all black. Corsets and Victorian style gowns and crinoline, sometimes fake blood. I rounded up awkward friendless kids and had them dress like me and made a vampire clan complete with a book where we all chose our vampire names and backstories. We also became pretend Wiccans, which was hanging out in the mall parkade pouring candle wax on cut off hair. Thought it was serious stuff. Got yelled at and threatened a lot by strangers for that one. Mermaid. After the dark vampire years I became obsessed with mermaids and teal colors. Dyed my hair teal and purple and shaved my eyebrows off to redraw them purple teal too. Wore too many fake pearls and a bunch of cheap tarnished jewelry to replicate Ariel's junk collection, but hanging around my neck. All my clothes were modified to be coated in glitter. Oh yeah, I drew scales on my face some days too. Peggy Bundy from Married with Children. I have no idea, she sparked something in me and I needed to be her. Dyed my hair bright red, wore all the tacky 80s clothes. Big plastic jewelry, leopard print pants, heels all the time with shiny leggings. Gothic Lolita doll, because my crush, now boyfriend, said he liked that style, so I went full out and learned how to sew because of this one. Wore the petticoats and dressed like a doll. Now I'm nearing 30 and I'm the plain one out of everyone I know. Whoa, seems like you always needed a persona. You've got to be somewhat talented at costume design though. Maybe that'll come in handy someday. It's not a phase, Mom. It's been 30 years since I picked up the habit of writing sevens the European way with a bar through the stem. Without the bar a 7 looks naked. I write ones with the bottom bit sometimes and I've had people ask what it was like. Come on. If it's like 114 then I don't do it because the context with the 4 there means you know it's a number, but if there's a 1 by itself it needs decorating to stop it looking like an IRL. I was a big anime fan. Still am. I just hide it better now. and used to walk around with my Naruto plushie as a 16-year-old. I hate that I used to do that, and I still cringe today. My boyfriend once told me that if we knew each other in high school we definitely would not have gotten along because he used to think people like that were weird and I thought everyone should watch anime and were lame for not understanding me. Also, I went through a strange mix of emo and goth around the same time, but I'm still that person so I don't really cringe about that. I'm in my mid-30s and still like it. I'm also a functioning adult married with a family and don't bring it up in polite company or buy any merch outside of the occasional tank that's only for the gym. Love my United States of Smash tank for chest day. I'm 17 and it's Thanksgiving Day. I'm wearing my Megadeth t-shirt. I have an angry scowl on my face and not talking to anyone. We go around the table and say to each other what we are thankful for. I say I'm thankful that I won't have to see you all for another year. I did this in front of about 20 family members and a couple guests. The younger cousins thought I was a world star, but I look back on it as a 42-year-old and I want to punch my younger self. It was such a model representation of teenage angst that it made a lasting impression on one of my cousins GFs who spent the day with us. That GF later went on to be a producer writer something for This American Life the radio show. My cousin is still in contact with her and she always brings me up, fondly. I'm thankful that I won't have to see you all for another year. Freaking wicked. Not me, but my sister-in-law when she was 17. My wife and I are 10 years older and had been together for 8 or 9 years at this point. She had this total douche canoe of a boyfriend who stole, would sneak into your booze and lied about everything. When her family confronted her about it she responded by yelling at us about how their love was pure and that none of us would ever understand or have what they have. Surprisingly, it didn't last. Needless to say, almost 10 years later we still bring it up when we want to have a good laugh. And you can tell that she dies a little on the inside when she remembers herself as a teenager. My older sister dated a guy named, I think, Justin. Sister's name is, say, Sister. Boyfriend would call, someone would answer, and boyfriend would say talk to sister. Most of us in the house would give the phone to my sister. My dad would say okay and hang up. We still poke fun at her for it. Guy was exceptional. Anime. I got into it in 6th grade, was a huge freaking weeb until my junior year of high school, 2004, where I decided I grew out of it. Did the conventions, cosplay, read the manga, took 5 years of formal Japanese classes. The best thing that came out of it was my appreciation for the culture, people, and language. However, I do look back and cringe hard. Not necessarily a phase, but my boyfriend has always had beautiful thick, long black eyelashes. Apparently when he was about 10 or 11 a girl in his class commented on them. I don't even think in a nasty way. She was probably admiring them. But 10-year-old him thought damn it, luscious long eyelashes are only for girls. This just won't do and proceeded to go home and cut his eyelashes off with scissors. The brother of my former best friend did the exact same thing for the exact same reason. My niece is going through that phase right now. Super emo, obsessed with all the usual suspect bands, black clothes, black makeup, black cloud over her head. My sister started listening to the music too and loves it. She and my niece bond over it. Instead of getting pissy with her she tries to understand and embrace what she loves. Your sister is a great mom. I hope I can be like that when my daughter is a teenager. I was an anarchist for a couple months, then I became a capital C communist for a while, and then I was briefly a libertarian, then back to socialism. I thought I was brilliant, too, way smarter than all those sheep. Being a really good student just helped that smarter than philosophy. It was all part of that mid-teens finding yourself phase where we all believe cringy crap to create a worldview for ourselves. I don't regret it. I also went through an emo phase, but that was back when emo was Dashboard Confessional and Weezer's Pinkerton and we all wore too small sweaters and Argyle. I had fake thick framed glasses before fake thick framed glasses were a thing. Mayo dude, you reached PEAKIDEOLOGY. My friends and I wore Renaissance fair type clothes and flower crowns every Friday of 8th grade. We did it because we thought we were too cool to try to fit in with the preppy, popular kids, but then got confused when people considered our group weird. I also dyed my hair dark brown in an attempt to look like Owen from the LOTR movies. This was the early 2000s. I'm happy not to be 13 years old anymore. I went through an emo phase, a goth phase, a scene phase, and a small hippie phase. The emo phase, my parents were getting divorced and I actually just wanted to kill myself. I didn't look like an emo kid. I looked like a poor kid who painted all their clothes black. I had just gotten new, very girly glasses which did not match anything I was going for. I also wore a Naruto headband around my neck every day. The goth phase, I wore trip pants every day. And yes, I had more than one pair. I feel bad for my mom for buying those for me. I dyed my hair black and ditched the headband. I thought I was so cool. The scene phase was bad. I got a haircut to look like every stereotypical scene kid and I wore lots of hair clips and hair bows, bright colored skinny jeans, blood on the dance floor shirts, and tons of beaded bracelets. The bracelets would literally go up to my elbow, and if I went to a rave, which I only went to a public one for all ages once a year, then those beads were going up to my armpit. The hippie phase, ugh. I wore an oversized baggy tie-dyed shirt every day and still wore a lot of my beaded bracelets. I also beaded a flower headband for myself and wore that everywhere. This phase only lasted a couple of months, thank God. When I reclused into my room for every weekend calling the other kids in my class idiots for drinking and having fun, I was so much superior with me 1500 hours of War Thunder. I get bonus points for campaigning to be lonely, what a coincidence, and spend too much time on P. Now at 19 I would strangle my younger self to death. Have to deal with so much crap. I am like 5 years behind on everyone on everything. Never done that and that. Worst is I didn't spend my time writing or drawing or playing an instrument. Skills I would love to have. No, I just played stupid games. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.